Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in again to another video with Daniel Erspamer of the Pelican Institute, and of course me, William Wallace for America. And as you all know, I'm trying to inform people every way that I can of what's going on in our state. There is a special session that has been called, which starts next week here in Louisiana with our legislature. And here today to go over some of the things that we're working on is, like I said, Daniel Erspamer. And I want to remind everybody, give you a little background information. Last week I did a video with Sarah Harbison, who is the legal counsel here at the Pelican Institute. And if you remember, she talked about freedoms and liberties. Did the governor overreach his powers, which they're infringed on our freedoms and liberties? And the Pelican Institute today, we're going to find out what they're working on for the next legislative session to be able to protect our freedoms and liberties. Daniel, there's some things coming up next week. Let's, we got 30-day you're going to do some things like 30-day approvals and different little things that we're working on. Do you want to share some of that?
Absolutely. First of all, if your viewers have read the call put out by the Speaker and the President of the Senate, they
70 things.
70 items. Yeah. So it's a wide open range of things potentially to be discussed. What we expect and hope is top of the agenda is really trying to better balance government. The American experiment really is based on this idea of checks and balances, and three branches of government. You pull up the Schoolhouse Rock video on this. This is pretty fundamental.
We're not going to start singing, I promise.
I can party trick. I can do the preamble to the Constitution.
Okay.
Maybe next episode.
We'll do it next time.
But checks and balances are a fundamental part of our government. And what we've learned over the last 6 to 8 months is we don't have very many of them, especially when it comes to emergency declarations here in Louisiana.
Right. Yeah, it seems like there was just this emergency declaration that was a flatten the curve for 2 weeks ago, and that was 6 weeks later, or however the joke is that goes about that. But I want to clarify that you guys are not working on either petition. Is that correct?
That's right. There's been a lot of, obviously, anger and frustration among citizens, among lawmakers. How do we deal with this? And frankly, a lack of information in many cases about how these decisions are being made. We've really taken the approach of, obviously there's some things we have to figure out now, but let's fix this for the long term. Let's make the structural changes necessary, whether it's now or the next administration or the one after that we get a better government out of it.
But I guess because there's too many different things that could happen, too many consequences from the other petition, and the petitions are very political. And it's not that you're not interested in those same thoughts and ideas that people who are behind the petitions are. Right. It's not that you're for or against it. It's simply that you want to attack it in a different direction. Instead of a political way, you want to do it through policy that could lay the groundwork for future decisions. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Look, we have been
avoiding the political ramifications.
That's right. We've been as vocal as anyone to say, these lockdowns are often too draconian and have not taken into account the realities of loss of livelihood, of increased food and shelter insecurity, of increased suicides and drug overdoses, and other delayed medical procedures. We've already started to see the beginnings of those consequences. There's more to come. So we have been aggressively telling the story of the reality that we have two crises, a health pandemic and a dramatic economic crisis, the likes of which we have not seen in Louisiana. That said, again, we want to the petitions and everything else often get right into the politics of it. Our interest is the policy.
I got it. So you're looking at creating some legislative oversight, if you will. So that way, and what I like about this is the check and balance and the legislative oversight creates things where the governor just doesn't have the sole say on what happens, and and be able just to the same thing everybody else is concerned about. Yeah. You don't want to have one person dictating the rules for a pandemic or another disaster. Now, so basically, there's a 30-day thing you're working on. Explain that, please.
Yeah. So one of the main proposals we have recommended is the governor should have the ability, and this is we see this across a number of states, should have the ability to declare a public health emergency. The challenge is that power shouldn't be unchecked or unlimited, and so what we've recommended is that after 30 days, when the declaration expires, that further declarations, extensions of that order would require legislative approval as well.
I got it. So just kind of like the federal government has for the president, when he declares a state of, when he declares war,
right, he
cannot have a declaration of war after 30 days. It's with congressional oversight or with their approval. So it's kind of the same thing, even though it's not war.
Right.
It's that it's based, war in the pandemic.
Right.
Or is it war on businesses, however you want to look at it, I guess. There's also a proposal that you have for some legislative oversight on power. Didn't the governor, I think it was, that said that you can't solve an emergency by a committee? Well, so you're having some oversight available for something that pertains to that.
Yeah, that's a kind of ludicrous statement on its face. The governor has paraded his team of public health experts and everybody else who's advising him, and that's rightly he should.
Absolutely, have more people helping.
That's right. Yeah. The truth is we need more perspectives, not fewer.
And what you're doing, what I love, I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 second that I just thought of, is that when you look at the governor who comes on board behind the microphone, he's got a team of people behind him. And we're all for that. We're all for surrounding yourself with people who know what's going on, people who are informed, and people who can direct our politicians which way they should go. But what I think Pelican Institute is encouraging is that we include our legislators in that process, so that way our legislators represent people in their districts. So now the legislator can listen to the people of their districts, and then those legislators can then go to the governor under the direction of this legislation you're trying to get through, and the governor then has to listen to the legislators. Is that an accurate way to put it?
That's right. Look, the governor and the executive branch should have to make its case. They should have to present the data and persuade the people's body, the legislature, to approve his declaration. If they've got a good case, they shouldn't have to worry about it.
Right.
We've seen the legislature support this governor and others of different parties and across. Whenever we've needed to come together, we have. The reality is these decisions have just gone on unchecked and frankly undefended. There have been one instance where the governor's staff actually had to come report to the legislature how they made the decisions and defend it against questions. That's how government should work.
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to go.
Exactly. Including our elected officials.
That's right.
So and also I think there's a third thing that you're working on is you want to clarify the difference between a health emergency and a natural disaster. And I think that this is important because although you're not working on the petitions, one of the petitions had this in mind. So by you all clarifying this, the people who are one of the petitions, this helps clarify future things.
Yeah, it became clear as we were doing this research and the debate that was happening over the petitions and different arguments that the law was unclear about whether the sort of concurrent states of emergency with health declarations and natural disasters and everything else, and the reality of living in Louisiana, we have to be able to respond to all of those things. So this is really something, again, that should have broad support, is just clarifying the law to make sure everyone understands what the parameters are and allows the governor to be able to handle both of those separately and clear up a lot of the confusion that happened in the last couple of months.
I like that. So basically these three things are more clarification than anything, which is a good thing because it's not creating something that is going to be more burdensome on our freedoms and liberties, but instead keep our freedoms and liberties in check.
That's right. We remind, of course, politics gets in the way of a lot of this. We remind our friends on the left as well that may be inclined to oppose this is there's going to be a Republican governor one day too.
Exactly.
This applies to everybody. This is genuinely not an attack on this governor. This is a clear deficiency in the current law that we're trying to address structurally, not just for the current situation, but to make sure we're set up to respond to this in the future as well.
Daniel, that's a great point because this law, just like the other one that we talked about earlier, it creates something that no matter who we have, a Republican or a Democrat. It balances the power out and takes away not so much a little power, but it helps add some oversight no matter who's in office, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. Pandemic aside, what else are you guys working on for this next session?
Yeah, so the other big focus that I hope everyone is engaged with is the education of our kids. You know, what we've learned, among other things, in this pandemic is that our setup, our one-size-fits-all public education system, is not well suited to deliver education, despite the best efforts of teachers and administrators around the state. We have kids, as we sit here today, who are still not back in school, which is absolutely unacceptable. And so the solution to this is to provide parents and families more choice, to allow them to take their hard-earned taxpayer public dollars to pandemic pods or micro schools or virtual charter schools or homeschools or some combination of thereof. We're seeing a massive innovation in education right now, and things that are working. What works for your family may not work for mine, and vice versa.
Right.
Why don't we have the opportunity for every child in Louisiana, the opportunity to attend a school that fits him or her? And that's all we're asking is that the legislature allow that to happen, use this opportunity to respond and provide all families that choice.
And school choice, like you said, during a pandemic is it's a good thing no matter what.
Right.
But school choice during a pandemic is good because let's say a parent doesn't like how one school is handling the COVID-19 restrictions, and they said, well, I want my child to go to this one, or education. This school seems to be performing better, would perform better for my child, is how I want to say it. What about technology issues? Are you guys working on anything with technology issues?
Absolutely. You know, the other things that we want to take a look at, something we've learned in the pandemic, we knew before, is broadband access is an absolute necessity, whether it's for work at home or education at home.
Senator Beth Mizell's worked hard on that, by the way.
Senator Mizell has been an amazing champion of this for her constituents.
And so is Eric Skrmetta.
Lots of folks, it's been a great thing. Lots of folks have come put their shoulder to the wheel of this. And Senator Mizell's bill in in this first special session passed unanimously, was signed by the governor, helped expand broadband access. We've got more work to do there, and we've got to make sure that our solutions are not, let's throw more government money at this.
Right.
The market can respond. The problem is there are a number of regulatory and tax barriers in the way. And it's really taking all players, government, private sector, and consumers to all come to the table to solve this problem. There's going to be a lot more work to do that, even beyond the next 30 days, but that'll be something we'll be talking about at the special session.
Broadband is just something that, I mean, as we've learned during the pandemic especially, that broadband is something that gives those rural areas way back in the, I don't want to say the woods, but like that don't have great connectivity, the ability to still be able for their children to be able to learn and stay connected, because it's about opportunity. It's about having the same opportunity as people that are in cities, with it. What about? I've heard that Louisiana is among one of the top most onerous occupational requirement states for professions.
Right.
Now this is important because it's not just onerous on occupational licenses for businesses, but it particularly, in my opinion, affects people that don't make a lot of money right now, whatever category you might put that in. But those people, they aspire to want to be able to do better, make more money. But Louisiana is one of the most onerous, highly litigious, is the right word, or maybe it isn't. It's hard for a business to meet those needs.
It's hard, especially as you mentioned, for those budding entrepreneurs, those people trying to create a better life for themselves and their families. One of our challenges in Louisiana we've talked a lot about is systemic poverty, generational poverty. And what we know, a recent study by the Archbridge Institute in Washington, D.C., showed a direct correlation between these onerous occupational licensure laws and economic mobility. So the more onerous the licensure laws, the harder it is for people to move out of their current circumstance and follow that pathway of opportunity. So we're talking about all the professions across the board. One that's gotten a lot of press is hair braiders.
Okay.
These are largely African-American women who are doing this job. It's passed down from mother to daughter. It's happening in the living room of people's homes. Well, if you want to do that here in Louisiana, you have to get a full cosmetology license. And that can cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 between the training requirements and the fees and everything else. That's just absurd.
Right.
And this is
somebody trying to pull themselves out of aspiring to do better.
Yeah.
Pull themselves out of their current situation, and government immediately backslaps them back to where they were, makes it harder for them.
This is about having to ask permission from the government to earn a living. And what we know is everyone in America, and certainly everyone in Louisiana, should have that right to earn a living and create, to pursue those pathways of opportunity, to pursue the American dream. And in a very real and very painful way, these licensure laws are prohibiting people from doing that. And it's worth noting, during the pandemic, we have waived certain licensure requirements. And it begs the question, if we didn't need them in an emergency, do we ever need them?
Right.
So this is a question we'll be asking legislators to take a look at, and something certainly we'll be talking about in the next 30 days, and lots of work to do that even beyond.
I like that. So pandemic aside, education, technology issues, and licensure issues. For anybody who wants to start a small business, it sounds like the Pelican Institute is on your side with that one. And I would love for you to share this video with other people who might be interested in what's going on in the next legislative session, but also to keep an eye on the Pelican Institute and watch how they might be fighting for an issue that you believe in, especially when it comes to, as we talked about, the state of emergency plan and the oversight, and also clarification on the difference between an emergency declaration, natural, or health emergency. Everybody, thank you so much, Daniel, for coming in here today.
Appreciate it.
And everybody else, share the video, please, and let everybody know there's 7 constitutional amendments. And keep in tune on my channel, William Wallace for America, for clarification on all 7 of them. Thank you so much, and have a great day.